Morning, everybody. I'm super excited to welcome two amazing ladies, Dina Moskowitz and Theresa Caragol. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
I know we've been chatting for a while, and Theresa, you and I have done a podcast before. So this time I'm going to let Dina introduce herself first, but it'll be great after that, Theresa, if you'd also say a few things about yourself and your company. So Dina?
Sure thing. Okay, well, hi, I'm Dina Moskowitz, and I'm the CEO and founder of PartnerOptimizer, based in Southern California. And PartnerOptimizer is a partner intelligence and discovery platform where we've basically innovated a whole new level of data mining to pull back and profile companies so that it makes it much easier for partners for partner organizations to precision target the right partners, whether they're looking to find new ones of any type or to understand and better segment their existing partners. Theresa, handing it to you.
Thank you. Theresa Caragol, CEO and founder of AchieveUnite and author of Partnering Success, which is doing really well, and recently just launched our whole co-sell experiences and programs. So we're really excited about that.
And we're going to talk a lot about co-sell a little bit later.
We're going to talk a little bit about AI because we can't have more than 3 minutes without talking about AI somewhere else.
There you go. But before we deep dive, Theresa, maybe it'll be great, for you to take a minute or two, introduce your framework of partnering success, because then we can kind of deep dive in each of these areas. There's a general macro theme about efficiency and effectiveness in this economy. But before we get into the tactical piece of this, I know you have an incredible strategic framework how to address that. So maybe if you can take a minute, that'll be amazing.
I would be honored to do that. Yeah. And I think it really fits nicely with the work that we're doing with Dina. So if you think about partnering success, we must have a joint vision, a North Star, a guiding light that we've agreed to. And the degree to which we get this right is often the degree to which we're successful later. And this notion of trusted business relationships, where is it? Okay, there we go. Trusted relationships. And this with AI, this with employee engagement in America at an all-time low. Trusted business relationships are becoming more important than ever. That's inside of the organization. That's at the board level. That's between the partner executives, the sellers. This notion of real trusted business relationships for strategic impact is critical. And then we talk about business acceleration. And I really put Dina as one of the propellers of business acceleration because her data insights, her knowledge, her capabilities can really help both individual sellers and partner managers, as well as the company strategy and operations team accelerate their partnering. And then the last one is community building, which, we might be a vendor that leads a community like Salesforce, like reInvent at AWS. We might be a participant in a community. We've all been to Channel Focus and Ultimate Partner Live yesterday. Or we might have our own communities as partners in cities where we're working with the Chamber of Commerce, but being very deliberate about what our community strategy. And at the heart of it is lifetime value. So we no longer treat partnerships like transactions. We don't treat relationships like transactions. The ones that we invest in for the long run are the most successful, the most profitable, the most win-win, and all of those things. So yeah, it's very exciting. And I'll say one more thing. We're getting ready to launch the next level of detail. There will be another book coming with the frameworks that deepen the science of this for our clients and our friends and our individuals.
Awesome. So let's take that as a framework, Dina, and let's talk a little bit about sort of building a community or building an ecosystem. And let's kind of break it down into two parts. First is someone who's trying to build one. And second is someone who has a large ecosystem trying to optimize. Let's go through those two use cases, how, your solutions, your offering play in those scenarios.
All right, cool. So if we start with build, and then I'll have Theresa talk about build, then we can go back to enrich and optimize and activate. But building is all about trying to get to that sweet spot of the right partners who have the right better together story with you. It's always great if you have a few early companies that are the right partners who have that because they came with basically your life relationship when you're starting out the partner program. But ultimately, you're not going to have more than a couple of those that really end up working and becoming productive partners. And productive meaning driving revenue or influencing revenue or referring revenue in some way or creating new products together that generate revenue. And I think, to be clear, while we all love to be partners and want to be friends and community, we have to have those common North Star goals, which is really about driving revenue, because that's why your employers have hired you, is to drive revenue. So starting with that, what are those ideal partner personas, those profiles of the companies that are the right ones for you to invest in partnering with? In my case, Theresa's company, AchieveUnite, is perfect because their team is working with the same ideal customers as ours. They have the right kind of expertise to bring our technology to their customers. And because we're focused on the same types of outcomes for our customers. So it's just a win-win. But it's amazing how when companies are focused on their ideal partner profile, they're missing out on elements that are critical to aligning in a business. And by knowing things like, what is the average transaction size that a partner should be bringing you? What is the ideal customer profile that your partner needs to have in order to align with you? What is your go-get? How much revenue do you think you want to generate through channel in the first place or through partnerships, so that you know how many of those partners who have the right transaction capability and the right influence ability could bring you makes all the difference. So by being strategic and intentional upfront about what you're trying to accomplish and finding those partners upfront who really meld with that, makes an enormous difference in the success of your partner program, rather than a, wait and see and hope and pray mentality.
So Theresa, how do you work with Dina's team? Pick a client. If you can disclose, that's great. If not, it's at a conceptual level. How do you engage when they say, hey, my board said we got to build a channel?
Yeah.
Or a lot of our customers are saying they buy from our competitors, but those competitors have channels or affiliates or SIs or whatever those types of partners are. So can you sort of frame it? Because it's a substantial investment for any company.
Yeah.
And it is not like launching a feature. It is launching a whole different organization and emotion and aligning the entire business. So how do you engage at a C level and then engage with, Dina's team to operationalize this?
It's interesting. I would put it into 3 buckets. Number 1 is we are a direct company, or we're a young company, and we have to build a channel. And we have a science to how we do that, which involves getting the strategy right. And we go through a whole methodology. And the degree to which you do that methodology is the degree to which they're successful, because we've been doing this long enough now. You can see the ones that are going to make it. And Dina fits into one of those segments, which is the ideal partner profile, the recruitment, and the onboarding. Because once we identify as part of the science, the whole science, she fits into a piece of it, which is identifying these ideal partner profiles. And then you got to figure out, what's the business proposition? Why do they want to work with your organization over someone else's? And if we don't get that ideal partner profile right, we're not going to get the business proposition right. People think business proposition is just about profit, or it's just about, a new logo. But there's 400 elements of why a company might work with you from a business proposition standpoint. So there's a much deeper science to it. And she propels us so much faster when we get that intersection. So that's in the new builds. Then the second scenario is a company that has a partner channel, but they need to go after a new segment. Maybe it's a construction partner set of, maybe it's companies that are working with AWS because they need a hyperscaler strategy. So they've got some level of a channel, but they need that next phase of growth. And I think Dina fits really well in the work we do together in identifying how to work in that arena and get the acceleration. Because it's sort of like, if you hit the dartboard right in that little circle, you get all the points. If you hit the dartboard all over, you hit the wall, and you may or may not, and it takes a year to get to the little tiny, she gets us right there fast. And so that has been a really great help. And so I would call these segment builds. And then the third one is, hey, you know what? We've got some success in a build, but we are never going to hit our numbers when we've done capacity planning with them, and we know exactly how many partners they need to get this kind of revenue based on this level of transaction, and they're not going to get there. And so then we come to her and we say, look, we need to recruit in these states, in this geography, in order to, get, and this is what our partner profile looks like. And she helps us get there faster. So it's a speed thing. It's a precision right first time, which I guess goes back to speed. And I think what we're going to see now that we've been doing this a while is the actual revenue of those partners is higher because we've done these other things up front.
So Dina, maybe you can talk a little bit about, I don't want to use the wrong word, but is this a humongous database with multi-parameter that you're going to kind of speak to and search? Like, can you walk us through what is that you have?
So the best way to describe it is what we're aiming to provide to the world of partnerships is what you might remember as Jay McBain's blob of partners, right? So there are these diagrams out there of how big is the partner universe. It's comprised of managed service providers and system integrators and ISVs and SaaS companies and cloud infrastructure and hardware and you name it. And they all have partners in those ecosystems, right? And there's a lot of crossover now where cloud infrastructure is also, they work with system integrators, but also managed service providers, but also, might be marketing agencies. And so there's a whole world of ecosystem mapping. And our goal as PartnerOptimizer is to continually mine as many B2B technology companies out there in the universe globally in order to better structure and sort those companies so that our search algorithms, where our customers are leveraging them, can actually pinpoint and target those precision partners that fit into your ecosystem, whether they are a reseller, a technology partner, a system integrator, the different areas of the spectrum of partners that contribute to the success of a customer first. So our customers come to us and or through Theresa because they're looking to either find one particular area of partner types and then from there and or at the same time find other types of partners. Like some of our customers are focused on finding SaaS companies that they can OEM into. And then they have other sides where the same company is looking for managed service providers that can resell to their direct customers.
Great. So let's kind of double click on that a little bit, Theresa. Let's take a project that you have done together and kind of walk us through what does the first day look like getting together with the client? What's the next day look like? How long do they typically last? What's the life cycle of the project? And maybe some of the KPIs you use at the time of launch, maybe 6 months out, a year out. It'll be really great, like incorporating Dina's solution if you kind of walk us through.
Yeah. So I'm going to stay with the builds because I think we've really had success in the builds. We may be in there for 6 months or a year doing the overall strategy program, getting them out in the market, getting them successful. And then, we really pull Dina in to help identify and, put the dart exactly where it needs to be on the right partners. And that piece, I think that piece has been very successful because we've just been able to take what distribution used to do and still does and does a good job, but it takes longer. It takes so much longer. So we've been able to go faster in getting these companies to productivity, which the private equities, the C-suite, like they want to see speed and they want to see progress and they want to see it fast. And I think Dina this software is a real accelerator for that. And the other thing we've been able to do, which I feel really good about, is oftentimes when you get a software like Dina's, it takes a while to get into the CIO and IT and, that might take a year. Well, we can go do that for the client because we already have the agreement with the client. We don't need to get their software into integrated. It's a good first step for Dina and we can get to productivity. And then down the road, if the customer wants to buy that software and procure it and integrate it with their other platforms, they can do that.
When it comes to like to Theresa, which I love you're referring to this as Dina, the technology. I'm not the technology. There's way more power in it than just my personal expertise, which is fine, but that's okay. But what I wanted to make clear is that we have features and functionality that make it so simple for Theresa's team to feed in, for example, a set of partners and find those business attributes that they have in common. And from there, build a search based on, attributes that are so much deeper than what you can ever typically find in any other environment. And so by being able to hone in using list-alike or look-alike business attributes and be able to then create a search that within a matter of seconds to minutes is showing you partners that actually look and match that, enables the strategists to do their job much better. It enables you to see what is a total addressable market of potentially productive partners for you, as opposed to looking at this universe that you'd have to spray and pray. So by being able to very quickly look at that, by being able to take a list of these partners and say, I didn't realize 80% of them are actually Cisco partners or 90% are actually Juniper partners, enables me as a strategist to say, maybe we need to go to a Juniper conference. Maybe we need to be recruiting and crafting a product or a solution that's focused on integrations with that tech stack, because those partners who we want are all working in those universes. So the insights that are surfaced in a matter of seconds change the game in how well you can strategize and how much better and faster your targeted strategies can go. Hopefully that helped.
So I want to stay with you, Dina, for a second, because I do have a question, and I know a lot of people ask this question. How many types of partners are out there?
Oh my God.
And let's maybe start with your database.
It depends on what you define as a partner type. And that's one of the things we're actually working on, is in using our backend, we're developing partner standardization classification right now. What is an MSP? What is an MSSP? What's a system integrator? Because there's a lot of crossover. What companies declare themselves to be is different than what they actually do. And so I would say there are hundreds of different classifications. We're trying to narrow it down to those top levels that people sort of understand. Like, is a CISO actually a partner classification, or is it a service that they provide, right? Is an MSP actually any company providing managed services more than 50%? Or is it a IT company focused on providing managed services in the IT space, right? So it's different things to different people. Nowadays, even a locksmith could be a partner in security related solutions, right? So it's changing and morphing as we speak. And that's why when we look at finding those right partners, it's about what is your goal with that partner, right? Is it to integrate in technology? Is it to have that partner resell? Is it to have that partner sell, refer you, or, implement and be someone that does the integration for you? So depending on what it is, we're profiling companies based on all those attributes so that you can take your intention and your need at the time and have that plug in and bring back the partners that matter at that time.
Do you see from a market sector?
We just did a report that we presented at the MSP Summit a few weeks ago, where we gathered 46,500 companies that are considered pure play MSPs. In other words, 50% or more of their business is done as managed service providers. And we're able to show that there actually fall into 31 separate technology subcategories. And then we were able to parse and show you the difference between ones who focus on unified communications versus cyber versus backup disaster recovery. So it really can be different.
Theresa, I know last time when we spoke, you announced a very exciting acquisition with Ron Rohner and his technology coming on board, which has, that whole notion of channel ready and channel worthy, the whole principle, right, that he kind of created. And you have introduced this other dimension called PQ. So let's say I have a target IPP, ideal partner profile, we figured out from Dina. Let's talk about the internal prep on the organization. Am I channel ready? Am I channel worthy? And do I have PQ in my organization to go after it? Can you frame and kind of walk us through that discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. So channel worthy, channel ready, business propositions, and capacity planning, predictive analytics, so many of they're just embedded in our offerings or embedded in our people training, these concepts that few people remember Ron Rohner, you do, of the amazing things that he pioneered that are now sort of embedded in the DNA. And those are some of those. I would say the thing that we do is the assessment piece, this upfront assessment. And it could be we're assessing the company's readiness for an ecosystem or the company's readiness for a channel. We have assessments in that category in the builds. In the existing ones, we have to assess their partner experience and their capacity to grow. And those are a much more sophisticated analysis that we do. That's called our value measurement index, which I think you've heard of, Sugata, and I know Dina knows about. And now we've done so many of those that we can benchmark companies against other companies in different categories. It's really amazing. And AI has really propelled that of the domain there. And what that does is it tells us what levers we have to improve in their ecosystem if they want to get growth. And it tells us where we can pinpoint exactly where we need to focus to get them growth. And if they're going to go recruit partners, what are the partners that are going to come on that they're ready for? What types of partners are they not ready for? Because they don't have that sophistication in order to go after GSIs or global service providers, or something like that. So those are the assessments that we use. And then we also have people assessments, because what we're learning now is that these high trust cultures, companies who already have high trust inside of their companies are actually better partner companies also. And so now PQI is, PQI has been at the individual level, but now we're able to start to look at teams and organizations and figure out whether they have if they have high trust, because high trust is predicated in innovation, it's predicating partnering, it's predicating go-to-market success. Yeah. So, but that's a very new thing, this whole trust notion.
So let's keep on building. So we have a target audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or target partners based on the ideal customer profile that we want to go after. We have now put together pieces, right? How to go after, whether it's based on coverage, whether it's based on expansion, whether it's based, whatever the rationale behind that. Now let's talk about maybe, 3 motions. One is enablement, second is co-market, and third is co-sell, right? So let's talk about from an enablement perspective, and either of you can kind of jump in here. Do you see approaches that vary between sector by sector in the tech sector, let's say cybersecurity versus cloud versus anything else, or do you see it's a monolithic approach? Can you comment a little bit what's going on with enablement today?
Well, one of the things I am most excited working with PartnerOptimizer, I'm not going to say Dina anymore, I'm going to say PartnerOptimizer, is I believe the adults learn in their real life by interacting, by doing, by figuring things out that are related to exactly what they do every day, right? So if we think about enablement, this generic training, sure, it's good. It teaches some skills, but you're trying to drive behavior changes in people in this whole partnering domain if they're going to be successful. And what PartnerOptimizer does is it gives me real-time data of my territory or my area or what I'm responsible for with my partners. And it gives me these insights that I can then use to form stronger value propositions for the customer, to form stronger business propositions about why the partner wants to partner with me versus someone else. It's giving me insights that I never would have had access to before. And if you combine that with the ability of AI to then look at what's the messaging, all of our IP that combines with the generic AI, and we start to get very deep into what the business plan should be, what their strategic initiatives should be to grow, what vertical markets should they go after. Like, we're in a whole new world of enablement that we weren't even in. Like, we didn't even have this ability a year ago or 2 years ago. So I am super excited about how PartnerOptimizer, AI, and enablement are going to change the game of how we're teaching people to do things better, faster.
So Dina, do you want to double click on that? Like exactly how your database or intelligence source that you have, how does it help?
Absolutely. Like when you take a look at what attributes you can find in your ideal partner profile from doing this type of analysis, you can now create much more customized outreaches, messages, products. Your stakeholders can all align around the same raison d'etre to talk to a partner, to get a partner to activate. And you're going to start to talk with our customers, I'd say, especially because in Theresa's world too, they are talking with partners versus at partners. And there's a critical difference because given the human side of partnerships, we need to build those foundations of trust. We need to build that feeling of we can do this together. And by talking up front about how you know their business, you understand where their focus is and how they can relate to you, makes for much better breakthroughs to build a relationship with those customers in the first place. So it's just fundamentally having those insights up front changes the game. It speeds everything up. It accelerates the revenue potential because you're doing that with the right partners.
So let's talk a little bit about co-marketing, especially in the tech sector and to some extent even in manufacturing, whether it's co-op dollars or MDF, they get thrown at the partners. Even today, it slowed down during COVID, but it picked back up. But people are still trying to figure out ROIs from them. And one of the key determinants we have seen from our platform is not so much, of course, the campaigns need to be right, the targets need to be right. There has to be some sort of concierge support for the partners. But the fundamental success factor is whether the partner has some level of marketing competency or not. You can't expect one person shop to suddenly become an overnight marketer, right? I mean, that's why they're called reseller. They're not called remarketers. So is there a way to figure out from your database, maybe an aggregate level or some sort of a DNA level, that if I'm investing, like, Theresa just helped me to recruit a bunch of partners. I got to decide where to go invest, right? Mm-hmm. How do I know, do they have the right DNA? Like if it's PQI is for my organization, what is the marketing quotient on the partner side? Is there a way to figure that out?
That's a good question. Well, I'm also going to say I hope that sometime in the near future we'll be able to integrate in a standardized PQI from Theresa's platform into the PartnerOptimizer company profiles, because that would be an awesome add-on. And so anyway, that's a great concept. And around ways to specifically know, the way to describe it is, what are those top alignments you need first and foremost? Obviously, that once you find those right partners that you want to recruit and partner with, it's going to take a little bit of time. And not all of those partners will like your product or have the readiness to be able to fold your product into their tech stack. But it's that ability to have them start to know and be able to understand whether these partners you think are your ideal partners from the get-go will have that ability to take you on and want to take you on in the future. And the ideal partner profile is just not a static idea or a static concept. Sure, it is for one product and at one level, but it's important to go back and revisit it. So as you go through and recruit, as you go through and have a really successful producing partner, go ahead and leverage it again to see if there are other partners like that, and how do you, and find those. Figure out why the ones that you were trying to recruit but aren't liking you don't want to partner with you, and steer clear of them rather than keep on going and trying to get the same ones. But use it as an iterative process so that you can find those right ones faster. Because if you're not finding them yourself and pushing those into place, know that your competitors really are trying to do that.
We built for a client and it had both marketing and growth in it. And it was a maturity model of partnering with this vendor. And, if the partner identified themselves as it was 5 stages. In stage 1, there were certain activities that they needed to do from a marketing perspective to grow. If they identified themselves in stage 3, then there was other activities and other things they needed to do because they were more mature in partnering with this vendor. And if they were in, stage 5, they got custom attention from this vendor directly to do certain campaigns. And we got very deliberate about what happens in each one of those phases. That is going to become more important, not less, in this next era, because one size doesn't fit all. You can't do 50,000 different activities. You really have to know exactly what moves the needle for each of these types of companies. And it's very precision based.
So Theresa, let's just stay here for a bit, because, you and I have sort of known the channel for a bit. Like 10 years ago, it was all events, lunch and learn, wine and cheese, get, people into a room and pitch, right? And then, of course, then there's random telemarketing, trying to set up appointments. This is where predominantly marketing dollars got spent, right? And there maybe some of the co-campaigns. Then COVID shut everything down. Everybody went to webinar, social, and search. Where, like at a macro level, where do you think things are working today, and what do you think is a waste of money today if somebody's kind of looking at from a co-marketing perspective?
It's interesting. I do think there's a huge resurgence of events. The challenge is people are trying to do too many events. I was just on a video with someone this morning. We were talking about the events and everything you have to do that surrounds the event that you want to focus on. And so, the degree to which you get your business plan with me, the vendor, with the partner, with the hyperscaler, maybe it's with the GSI, like it's no longer one vendor and one partner. It's an ecosystem of partners that are focusing on a strategic initiative that then have a set of accounts, that then have a set of marketing initiatives, that then have a couple of events. And all of those things have to be lined up in order to be successful. And there's random acts of marketing, like that doesn't work anymore. And generic, I don't think that works anymore. I am a big fan of account-based marketing. I am a big fan of LinkedIn and social and leveraging those things, coupled with very strategic involvement in events, not peanut butter.
So is there a dichotomy? Because when you kind of listen to whether it's Jay McBain or Forrester or Gartner, any of them, they're saying 90% of the buying research is happening online, right? And then by the time they talk to a salesperson, so do you think there's a disconnect or is it because there's so much digital content? From a brand and vendor perspective, they're going back to this sort of old school event market. What is driving the shift? If the buyers are online, why are we going offline?
Yeah, I mean, yes, they research and they find information in different sources. And yes, they use AI to ask it questions. And yes, they have trusted advisors way back here in the strategy piece who are not the resellers. They're not the managed service providers. They might be me. I might be one of their trusted advisors. Dina might be one of their trusted advisors. You might be one of their trusted advisors, but you're not doing any transaction later in the cycle. And those kinds of things are what's happening now that we have to get right. And we have to really understand influence, and we have to really understand these co-motions. I made a pretty bold statement yesterday at Ultimate Partner Live that I believe direct selling, the way it used to be, is going to be gone in the next 3 years. And the direct sellers aren't going to make it, because you might transact direct, but if you're not leveraging your entire ecosystem of influencers into a buyer and it isn't all digital, you're missing the boat. By the way, digital's one piece of it. Social media might be one piece of it. Where do they show up? Where does your buyer show up on Facebook or LinkedIn or some of these sources? But it's not the only piece.
So Dina, let's start going to co-sell. I'm trying to keep an eye on time, and then we'll talk about incentives a little bit. So from your database, is there a dimension that companies or organizations like Dina can sort of discover that tells us which partners may be more capable of co-selling, with me or with other partners from my ecosystem? Like how do you help companies to co-sell better based on the intelligence that you provide?
So that's almost like two separate questions. So when we think of co-selling these days in the partner ecosystem, it's a lot around the hyperscalers, right? That's where it's being talked about the most. Are you in one of the big marketplaces like Azure or Google Cloud or AWS Marketplace? Because that's where the functionality is actually being put in place to enable transactions to occur between partners and customers and the cloud infrastructure company that are all driving value. So I do think that in that world of partner ecosystems with hyperscalers, what's happening more and more is companies and emerging SaaS especially, who are getting into those marketplace ecosystems and investing the time and attention there, are thinking that they're going to stand up their profile and stand up their offerings, and then the floodgates are going to open. And the challenge with that is you still need to know your ideal partner profile. You still need to be able to figure out which partners within that ecosystem are available to transact with that have the right ideal partner profile characteristics that are going to help you go to market more. Because ultimately, the cloud marketplaces want to drive consumption of cloud. So if you're one of the smaller ones and not one of the top several hundred, AWS or the other hyperscalers, they don't have the bandwidth or the partner team to focus on the co-sell with you. So you still need to find those right partners that can help you sell your partner, sell your solutions through. And hopefully transact still within the marketplaces to drive that success. So it comes down again. I hate to say it, I'm IPP, you know me, but you still need to have a partner strategy. You can't just expect to list on the marketplace and the floodgates are going to open, because that is not actually your marketing go-to-market part of the marketplace. It's actually your how to transact and how to have the infrastructure to make it work successfully.
And Theresa, so how are you helping customers today by leveraging what Dina has to offer, or PartnerOptimizer has to offer?
In the co-sell arena specifically?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think in the co-sell arena specifically, she's really a tool to identify like the data around who should we be co-selling with, who should these partners be co-selling with, who should the vendor reps be co-selling with, from a customer or a partner perspective. And then in the co-selling arena, you also start to get into the partner tap, the crossbeam, the workspan, those companies on the end customer side of it. And, how do we work together and who's in those accounts and all of that good stuff.
And I know you have recently announced, Theresa, some new capabilities in co-sell as well as leveraging AI. Can you talk a little bit about what those offerings are?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we have weaved co-sell, just like we've weaved AI, into all of our partner manager programs, all of our partner marketer programs, because everybody's got to understand both of these things. And then we have a special program for the sellers to really learn how to co-sell effectively. And that's our newest program. And we have programs where people are learning, networking, building funnel, driving new opportunities, and figuring out how to engage and influence all at the same time. And so I'm probably most excited about that, because time is such a precious commodity. And if I can do all of those 4 things in a 2-hour period with a series of reps coming together, I just put them 5 steps up the food chain.
And how are you doing that? Can you kind of get into the mechanics of it?
Yeah, we do a lot of upfront work first, because that matters. Again, it cannot be generic. It has to be and we have a special framework, our Prime, and we have some partners with a FAME framework that are working on that piece. And then we take that, we cross-train individually, and then we bring them together for the experience that is what really propels.
And how does AI play a role into that?
Well, AI puts let's say there's 4 companies that have to come together. We put all of that into a private AI, and it spits out joint value propositions. It spits out specific messages for specific customers based on what they're marketing and talking about in the marketplace. It spits out what's the business proposition for that partner executive that's not quite over the line on why he wants to sell to Coca-Cola with this vendor and this hyperscaler. All that information becomes at their fingertip.
That's pretty amazing. So then, Dina, coming back to you from a Partner Optimizer perspective, I know you use quite a bit of AI. So can you kind of walk us through how you're leveraging that Gen AI capability, or if there's any ML involved into that? I'd love to know.
Yeah, so we're incorporating more and more into it. So things like company descriptions are showing up. At core to Partner Optimizer is the data mining that we do extremely efficiently, extremely quickly, keeping things fresh and finding more partners. We're incorporating AI into finding even more partners globally as much as we can. We're incorporating it into finding insights that turn our data insights into conversational, easier to consume recommendations. We're incorporating it on the front end of our platform, not yet, but coming soon, where partner standardization is going to make a difference in how you get started with your search, and how the insights that we're bringing forward will be more obvious. So multiple areas, multiple facets. We're improving, the machine learning we're testing right now, different levels of it within our search algorithms to make better recommendation engines depending on the intent of your search, the intent of why you're building an ideal partner profile. So the one thing I want to emphasize is that AI on its own is great, but without the human intention, without the human intelligence, and knowing why you want to build a campaign, the AI is not going to understand that. So it's especially in partnerships, it's really important to incorporate the human aspect, the human why, the human hypothesis of what you need to do when you need to do it in order to find the right partners at the right time. Because otherwise, if you try to use some of the generic ones, you may find at first a good answer. But if you try to take that through into a deeper, in-depth experience of partner discovery or partner intelligence, you end up hitting a wall or realizing there's things in there that are hallucinations that just are not as true or accurate and could send you on the wrong path.
Absolutely true. I mean, we have introduced substantial capabilities from content creation for sort of portal assist, point of views.
Yeah.
And then sort of doing query on the intelligence side. And one thing is absolutely clear that these 3 T's, which is tagging of the data to make sure it's clean, tuning of it to make sure it answers the right thing and has guardrail, and then from a continuous basis, training it on an ongoing basis is very, very required service that customers don't have the capability. So Theresa, when you're going sort of putting these bundles together, how much of it is technology content and how much of it is human content that at the end of the day, the customer is buying an answer or an outcome, right?
Yeah, they're buying an answer and an outcome, and they're definitely buying our expertise, which we tap into private AI, very, protected knowledge banks. But I think, if you think there's an article by KPMG and NACD was just talking about, if you think AI is a replacement for people, it's a race to the bottom, and those companies will not be successful. If you think AI is a tool that augments your best thoughts, your best innovations, your best products, your best people, your best solutions, that's the ticket. And I really subscribe to that in our company.
That was my last question, so I'm going to skip that, but I'm going to ask you a different question then, and to both of you. So in 2026, is the AI bubble going to burst?
I think the AI bubble, the cup runneth over, and we're going to see some incredible innovations and disruptions and new companies. And we're already doing some really unique things that are going to allow us to have new offers in this. So I'm crazy excited about the future with AI.
I'm seeing a ton of SaaS companies that are coming through that will be very disruptive to technologies in cybersecurity and IT infrastructure and marketing. And they're all looking to grow through partnerships. So I see that there is a incredible opportunity ahead. I think the buyers might get tone deaf because it's too much talk around AI as opposed to the value that they're getting. So that's one of the cautionary things on the marketing side is I don't think we need to include AI in the conversation nearly as much. It really is answers and outcome, like you're saying. But I do think that the tools that will be available are just incredible. And I was at a conference last week in the healthcare tech sector. And I mean, what's coming forward in healthcare as a result of the impact of using AI is absolutely incredible. Same with education. Same in the nonprofit industry. There's everything is incorporating for better efficiency, better value. Yeah. I think though, that word AI, I mean, now that I hear my mom is using it thinking that when she's on a support, phone call that the AI is getting it wrong, I think it's, the messaging similar to back years ago when, SaaS was the first thing that was being talked about, or the internet, or, people, it's the word is getting overutilized and misunderstood.
Awesome.
Appreciate your
So
time.
with that amazing note, I think we're going to wrap this up. I know you all have a next meeting to go to. Thank you for being here. But sincerely, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great conversation. Appreciate it.